Welcome back to the Michael Maher Show. Today is Monday, April 4th, 2022. This is episode 76. We have a phenomenal episode today. I have the honor of being joined by Dr. Bret Danilowicz, future president of Radford University. He will become the 8th president of Radford University on July 1st, 2022. It's an absolute honor to have you on, President Bret. Thank you very much.
Michael, I am delighted to be with you, and I wish I was standing in the fountain that's behind me over the shoulder, but I'll be up there in April, so I can stand in it then. For now, I'm still in Florida, but I'm glad to be joining you virtually.
Nice. Yeah, I saw they had some good stuff going on at Moffett Quad today, or Moffett Quad, or right outside of Muse. They had a whole bunch of games and stuff going on, so I might go check that out after this if it's still going.
Okay, you'll have to send me some photos.
I will. All right, first question that I have for you for the podcast is, what excites you about becoming president of Radford University? And ultimately, has leading a university always been a goal of yours?
Michael, thinking about coming up to Radford, it's a student-centered university. I mean, everything is about student success and the student experience. So having that singular focus, to me, is very, very exciting. And also, it's in such a beautiful part of the country. Those two things married together are obviously exciting. But when I think about Radford itself, there are so many sports teams that we have access to. So I can't wait to be cheering on the Highlanders. It doesn't matter if it's in basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, it's all good. So being part of there and truly in the community with students is very exciting to me. And I also think that being responsible for leading those student experiences, being responsible for recruiting the right faculty members and staff and keeping them there, professionally developing them, so the student experience is just unbelievable for their students. That excites me about coming to the university. And it hasn't always been part of my career. When I started as a faculty member, I wanted to do research and teach. And I happened to get into administration, and I found it was even more powerful to help other faculty and students be successful than my own lab and in my own classroom. And since that experience, I was about 16 years ago, I made that transition with my wife to thinking about the presidency as the final goal. So it's been quite a journey, but I didn't, like you, I might have thought about being a fireman or a policeman when I was early on. So it was about 16 years ago that I made that transition to considering the presidency.
So what are the steps that you've taken over the 16 years since you decided that that's a goal of yours to necessarily become a president of a university?
So, one of the things I learned early on from one of my mentors was to always try to perform at the level that people would expect you to be in that next role. So when I was associate dean, I tried to do things that a dean should be doing. So I started going to fundraising conferences because that becomes more and more important in academia. And when I became dean, I started thinking about, well, what are the functions that are needed, to be a provost or a president? So I went back to school and got an MBA while I was working full-time as a dean. Again, all that was starting to build up that portfolio of experiences for presidency. The building a network is obviously very important, both politically and with fundraising. So I've built a great network of colleagues, including presidents across the country, because one of the things I've learned, which is very important, is that I am not a perfect individual. I always can learn more, and I'm never going to have the solution by myself for an exact answer on a complicated problem. So I've developed this network of colleagues that I can talk to, and that has been a wonderful resource to me. So those are a couple of examples of how I've changed my trajectory as an individual to become prepared for the presidency.
Nice. And this is a throwback type question. I guess you could say it. It's a loaded question, but you attended Duke University, Georgia Southern, Open University in England, Utica College of Syracuse, or at Syracuse University. Ultimately, how has each individual academic program that you've been a part of shaped the leader that you are today?
Obviously, each degree program gave me training, right? So I got my undergrad degree in biology, so I became a biologist. But I think, taking it more of what they each provided to me. When I was an undergraduate, it affirmed to me that I knew how to study and study well. I was one of those individuals that anything shy of an A in a class was crushing to me. So I continued to learn how to study, but it also affirmed that I wanted to do research, because I did undergraduate research as a student. Not many students did, but I did, and I found that was part of what I wanted to do. It helped define my future. when I was at Duke, one of the first things I learned was humility. Although I was a top student at Utica College, when I went to Duke, it attracted top students from everywhere. And I found out not only was I not one of the brightest, I actually felt most of the students around me were much brighter than I was. But the good part from that was, while I learned that humility, I also learned how working with others was really helpful for me as an academic. So always trying to problem solve with groups to come up with a better solution. That was a really powerful learning mechanism while I was at Duke. Open University was really my first step in admitting that I needed to learn from others to be a better administrator. So when I went to the Open University, I was in Ireland at the time as a faculty member, and I just started in administration. And that degree helped me understand professional empathy. So really to put myself in the shoes of advisors and staff members, student employees, and everybody on campus, and to understand things from their perspective before I made decisions, that was powerful. And then, I mentioned earlier, going back to school for the MBA at Georgia Southern, while I learned a lot about business, I also learned I never want to be an accountant. Ever, ever, ever. Never an accountant. Okay. No, apologies to accountants out there, but that was not for me. I learned something from each of those degrees. With the business sense that came with the MBA, it really wasn't about making higher education a business, but it was learning all the elements of business that could make higher education better. And I really found that to help define how I work through everything from finances to organization to staffing at the institution. So each of the degrees have been very different, but very powerful in their own right.
And you said you learned how to study, or like the progression of like how you studied in ways. What are some tips or tricks you could give to people that maybe want to go to graduate school, or even people that are just now arriving at Radford University to, help them excel in school?
One of the first things that I still tell students is when they start at university, it's like it's the start of your professional degree right then. Okay. I mean, everybody talks, principals in high school will say, well, this is part of your permanent record. Well, yes, but when you get to university, each step in that classroom and each studying, each test that you take, each essay that you write, you're writing those and being examined by individuals who are going to write your letters of reference someday. So you start your university career as a professional. I want to be employed someday. Here is what I want to do. So in my mind as a student, I was always looking ahead and understanding that I need to study and demonstrate that I have the ability to study independently, that I have the dedication that I'm going to show up to class on time and be timely with my materials. And I can tell you by the end, I had very positive letters of recommendation. Those letters of recommendation are key. A lot of times I will start talking to students who haven't built a connection to a faculty member, and they may be juniors. So I actually ask them to develop a strategy and bring it back to me. How are you going to connect to individuals that are not going to just see you as a person in the classroom, where they're going to say to you, I actually respect you, and I think that you should be, going to this particular career or this job. I'm excited to write a letter for you. That is so key. But a lot of it starts back in those first days of the class. How do you set the pattern so you stand out in the classroom? It's something that I mentor students for. A lot of the students that I mentor end up going to professional school because they take that advice or get back on track.
You recently served as a dean, or you served as a dean for Oklahoma State University, and then more recently, the provost of Florida Atlantic University. How will you apply what you learned from those roles that you had ultimately when you become president at Radford?
Michael, I'll give you a big example from each of those places because, we bring a lot of experiences with you, but I'll give you kind of a key learning moment that I had from each institution. At Oklahoma State, one of the things that when I arrived, I had 24 departments that reported to me, and I had 31 direct reports. Those are individuals that I'm responsible for supervising. And less than 1 of 5 of those individuals was a woman or a person of color. And so it was a heavily dominated male, Caucasian male leadership team for the college. And in seeing that, what I also learned as I started talking to them is that nobody wanted to step in to the leadership roles when they became available. Nobody wanted to be a department chair. Being a department chair is a very tough job, okay? But nobody wanted to step into that role. Nobody wanted to step into the role of the associate deans if they were to come open. So I learned how to work on a leadership development pipeline. We set up assistant department chair positions so people could try it out. We opened up budgeting and policies so people could see how they were applied, see how the budget worked. The whole effort was to make administration less scary to individuals, less of a jump from where they were as a faculty member to those positions. So over a 6-year period, by the time I was leaving, almost 1 in 2 of individuals were either female or a person of color. So that was a colossal change out there. And all the practices that were associated with that in developing that a leadership pipeline that was excited about stepping into the roles rather than hesitant, that was a big learning opportunity for me that worked well, and it's something that I would bring with me to Radford. At Florida Atlantic, it's been amazing to be part of the team that's led the fastest improvement in the nation in graduation rates of our students. And I was not here when the trajectory started, but about 8 years ago now, the graduation rate of the students here was 18%. And now that's over a 4-year graduation rate. Universities measure this differently, but only 1 in 5 students was graduating in 4-year period. I've been here over the last part of that acceleration, and I've learned how to build a team, how to manage the team. So all the challenges that come up with supporting students, people learn to work together and not worry about the division or the departments they're in. We prioritize it and we solve the problems on almost a daily basis for students. And now 1 in 2 of our students graduates in 4 years. The national average is just 33%, by the way. So we've gone from being half the national average to being far above the national average in just a few years. Each of those has been, again, something that's been important to me personally, but also I've seen how it worked well, and it will bring both those experiences to Radford.
Nice. And another question that I have is, what was the recruitment process like for becoming the president of Radford University?
First step was my wife letting me know that South Florida was too traffic heavy for her. Okay, so that's the message that it's time to start being ready for a move. But we had been preparing for a presidency regardless. Okay, but just the South traffic Florida was not an ideal for her. And so it started out with an ad, right? Seeing that that the position was available, but early on, once I submitted a letter kind of explaining why I was interested, then there was a request back to write about 7 essays to the search committee about things like diversity and equity, fundraising, the student experience. So these were all things that I cared about. So in some ways, writing those essays was just reaffirming that they were looking for somebody that had my interests. There was a very large search committee of 24 people. I had an early interview with them and the search consultants. Ultimately, I got invited back to meet with them in Virginia, and you had a couple hour meeting with that group, that search committee group. I got to go to dinner with my wife and 8 of the search committee members. And whenever my wife is involved, life is good. So, for that dinner, it was just a very enjoyable experience. And what was important is not just the traffic in South Florida was hard for her, but she liked the people she met. She actually thought that, okay, this was a good fit for her as well. So I was interested in my fit from my side, right? Professionally, area for me, but it was also a fit for her. So that was kind of a journey through that experience. And, with each step of the process, I got more and more excited. And I'll tell you, I'm spending each morning and evening now talking with people up at Radford. So my mornings usually start about 6:45 and go till about 8 in the evening, but I'm enjoying those. And each day it's making me more excited about July 1st.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I got in touch with Karen about scheduling an interview with you. She's like, well, we can do it, at 6 in the morning or 6 p.m. And I was like, 6 in the morning. I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe 6 p.m. But was this an area that you were not necessarily targeting, but did you want to move up north from Florida? I mean, your wife said the traffic was kind of bad, or
Yeah.
what area were you looking at?
So Kay and I, when we were thinking about how to approach a presidency, we wanted to stay East Coast. Okay, that was just, this is where, we have a small family, but the family that we do have is here. I'll tell you, it's like everything in life. When you're married, it's that relationship, right? So we have horses that we ride as a couple, and so my wife wanted to be somewhere where we could ride horses. So that starts restricting. Okay, we're not going to be in a city. We're going to be in a country area. And the thing is, we both like to run, we both like to bike ride. So part of it was finding out what area fits us, and we did not want to be in a big city. So that really starts restricting, the opportunities. And for me, my goal, I've been at larger universities, and my goal was to be an institution of between 10,000 and 15,000 students. I thought that was the right size, so I could be more involved with the students than in a big institution. So really, it's one of those things. I can't say that I was looking for Radford to open up, but when Radford opened up, I realized how many of those elements it hit that was exactly what Kay and I were looking for.
And what was it like living in Ireland for several years, and ultimately how that correlates to Radford, Scottish heritage, and the tartan here?
Sure.
How does that resonate with you and your wife and just your family in general?
Very well. We happen to appreciate tartan very much. By the way, at Oklahoma State, they have a bagpipe band that plays as part of graduation. So I'd experienced that. And as well, when Kay and I got married, we got married in Hawaii. We had one music player who was a bagpiper. So to talk about coincidence, right? Coming back to the Highlands, we did that because we lived in Ireland. And anyway, when we were there, it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And honestly, we've talked a long time about this. We probably never would have come back, except for this was where our family was. And we had 4 children at that time. 3 of them were born in Ireland, and we were both working professionals. So both working full-time or beyond full-time, managing 4 children, and without family support, that part got hard. But I'll tell you, the community we were in, a lot of the people worked for some of the big companies around us. We lived in a small town of 2,000 people. And although I went into Dublin each day, we were in a very small town. Nobody locked their doors. The kids just ran in from one house to the other. Every night we had tea, just to talk in different people's houses. I've never lived in an environment like that before. And again, it was just a very special time. Ireland may have changed now where people are locking their doors. They didn't at the time. And again, it was just kind of almost a magical moment for us. We certainly miss our colleagues there, but in terms of, I guess, living and really enjoying your community, it was a wonderful experience that we've been trying to match. So in coming to Radford, that Scottish heritage, certainly the spirit of that community, it feels like it's there, on the campus and with the community. That's what we're hoping to re-engage with. And again, the bagpipes aren't a bad part of it either.
No, not at all. And that sounds great. That's honestly a dream of mine, is to at least visit Ireland, or ultimately like potentially living there for a year or two would be phenomenal, because I'm full Irish, and both sides of my family obviously are Irish. And that's just a big dream of mine. So that's really cool that you had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, Michael, it's so worthwhile. What I always encourage people to do, and this is when, having lived in Europe, people approach vacations very different in Europe. They, instead of taking, in Europe, they'll take a 5-week break and they'll just go on a vacation, and they will tend to stay in one spot. They will go to a different country and just learn the community. They'll learn the culture, start trying out the language. And you're familiar with the more American style vacation, where it tends to be about a week if you're lucky. It tends to be running from spot to spot for photos, and it's just it's a level of chaos. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the European style. And, when you get over to Ireland, rather than just hitting all the highlights and being there for a week, if you could stretch it out and get to know the people in one of the communities, it's marvelous. It's just a very different way of traveling.
Yeah, that's the main reason why I would like to travel, not only to Ireland, but to Europe in general, or just anywhere I can, is to meet the people and see the cultures and just diversify myself as a person.
Absolutely. And you learn so much more when you see the same person over the next couple of days and have a conversation, a deeper conversation than how's it going?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And have you had the opportunity to come up and see Radford yet?
I have. I've been up there twice now in person. It'll be up at the end of April. When I had gotten invited for an interview to come back, they didn't have the interviews on Radford campus. So Kay and I went and we spent 3 days before the interview in the community. And so we drove around. We ate at several different restaurants. We talked to a lot of people on the street who had no idea who we were. Just, we're just kind of tourists checking it out. Again, a very good feel for the small town environment that we want to be in. So, and I'll say that the campus itself is just stunning. I mean, it is a remarkably beautiful campus. It is the first place I've ever been where the indoor running track in the athletic facility has a hill in it. I've never seen that before.
It's
and also
brutal.
Yeah, it is. But one of the things I also learned was the walk up to the president's house is going to give my calves a workout. That is quite the hill.
Yeah, I live right off Main Street. And so when I, someone's going like morning jogs and stuff, if the gym isn't open yet, I'll run up that hill. And I get about like 3/4 of the way and my calves feel like about to burn off.
Okay. So I'm a runner, so I may be, joining you in walking that last quarter.
Yeah. And a question I have that relates to that is, what were some first impressions that you had when you arrived to the town of Radford and Radford University, like the campus?
Well, I mentioned about the beauty of the campus, right? And I did get to know some of the people in the community, but, we weren't there that many days to get to know people well, but it was a friendly community. Some of the things that stood out to me were, there's the river walk, which we enjoyed, but I wondered to myself, is the university and the city taking as full advantage of they could of this amenity of the river? And I'm still learning about how the university is planning to, interact with that area. Similarly with the town, there's areas that have developed well. I know there's development plans underway for other parts of the city. And I thought to myself, how do we make the connection between the city and the university even that much stronger? So what I would say is that we loved what we saw, and we were already thinking about how do we make these connections better? How do we make Radford more distinctive through this? And we saw those opportunities as well. But I'll tell you, once being on campus, I cannot imagine being a prospective student coming to campus and going anywhere else. So how do we get people to visit campus, right? That wouldn't be there. And I just think that the campus sells itself, as do the people. It's about how to try to get Radford University on people's radar as a place that's just an incredible supportive environment for students. So those are some of my first impressions.
Like you said, it's such a beautiful campus. And it's kind of funny. My sister graduated from Radford in 2015, and I was in high school, and I stayed the night with her beforehand with my parents. And we were walking Moffett Quad, and all the chairs were laid out. And I remember just sitting there and thinking like, wow, like it'd be great to go here. And now on May 7th, I'll be graduating in those same chairs. So it's kind of just awesome how it's all come full circle. But now on a deeper note, or a deeper question I have for you are, what are some goals that you plan to achieve during your tenure as president of Radford University?
I'll tell you, Michael, it's hard to say explicitly what those are before I even get on campus, right? So I'm starting to formulate these through my conversations. So I'll give you a couple of generalities. I do believe that for a university, trying to retain every student that comes to campus when they arrive as freshmen, and trying to get more of our students to graduate within 4 years, I think is important. So it's that student success. How do we make our students as successful as we possibly can at the institution? I mentioned to you about the the opportunities with the city. I would love to see more employment opportunities for our students right around the university, and to try to work with the city to develop more of a, I'll say, a campus town environment feel around the university. The campus is beautiful, right? And we want that nice transition for students. So it's a nice, easy transition for them to enjoy the rest of the city as well. Going back to employment, I really feel that so many students are finding university harder and harder to afford, because Pell Grants and other scholarships, they just don't cover as much as students would like them to. So that employment opportunity for students is going to be crucial. The costs of university do continue to go up, so universities have to provide the opportunities for students to be able to afford it. Part of that scholarships, part of that's fundraising, right, to develop more money, but part of it is finding the employment opportunities for students. I happen to be a person that's very passionate about sustainability. So I mentioned, the river walk and the river earlier. I know there's the Selu Conservatory associated with campus. So how do we take that beautiful environment that's Mount Radford and connect it in ways to sustainability that makes us distinctive as a campus? And it's just that other drive to get students to attend Radford. Those are kind of three general areas that I'm working on. Those are others. They're still baking, right? Each morning and each evening they get a little bit more baked, but those are some of the ideas that I'm starting to develop as goals.
Yeah, all those sound great. And I'm really excited to see like how you and your team that you assemble can grow Radford, because Radford means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family, because I had legacy here. So It's just, I'm really happy that they chose you to become president, and it just seems like a great fit. But now another question that I have, and we kind of covered some of this earlier on in the show, but what were some alternative career paths that you were considering when you were growing up, whether it was like, high school or early in college? Like, what were some paths that you were considering?
Wow. Okay, when I say I was early on in marine biology, I mean, I was certainly less than 10 years old. So, I mean, I made this decision pretty early. However, I did, in my head, try a couple of things. I mean, think through a couple of things. I mean, I was a very good undergraduate student. And for most of the students that were around me that were in biology, most of them were thinking about going on to be a doctor. And so that was something that I thought about, but really working with patients in that kind of an environment, I talked about it, I learned a little bit more about it, but it just wasn't for me, it didn't fit. I can tell you, I tried a couple of side jobs at different times. I turned down a prestigious fellowship when I was graduating from undergrad before I went to Duke. Very prestigious fellowship for the summer, but it was in marine biology, and I wanted to make sure that I wanted to be a marine biologist. So instead of doing that, I turned it down and I went roofing with some of my friends from college for the summer. And in 90+ degree weather, I was painting barn room roofs with aluminum paint, working with roofing tiles that were melting in our hands because they were so hot. And I thought, yes, marine biology is definitely, they're out for me. You know what, that experience though, I so respect the people that have to do construction, especially out in the elements. I'm glad I made that choice, although, it was also affirming that I was on the right track with being a faculty member and being a marine biologist and doing research.
Yeah, I completely relate to that, or I understand it, because back in March of 2020, I had an internship, but then it got canceled, or like just everyone's internship basically got canceled. So me and my friend, we did blue collar work for the entire summer. We worked on a couple of different farms, painted fences, painted mailboxes, mulching. So like you said, I completely respect people that have that type of job. And it takes a whole lot of work, especially in the 90-degree heat, like you said.
Absolutely. And they support our community in different ways. I mean, everybody needs to work together. And it's one of those things, having worked in that role, I know how hard it is. Everybody's job is hard. We just do things differently. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a random question. I only have 2 left for you. I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time.
No, you're good. You're good.
It's great getting to talk to you and meet you. But what are some things that you enjoy doing in your free time, like your hobbies and your passions when you're not busy working?
Yeah. Work is busy. I can only imagine as a president what it's going to be like, right? But who needs sleep? That's overrated. Well, for spending time with my wife is important. So we both enjoy mountain biking. We both enjoy running. I mentioned earlier we have horses. We use stand-up paddle boards. We kayak. So lots of outdoor stuff. Okay? But I personally, one of the things I've found is with my youngest son, we learned how to forge metal and to weld. So I do metal art, and that's something that I enjoy. That's really me time at this point. So I find I recover metal, so scrap metal that people have thrown away, or that's, again, people are recycling, and I turn that into art. So I've made turtles, birds, fish, and I'm now working with a project based just on horseshoes. I'm kind of doing a 3-dimensional horse head, and we'll see how it comes out. That's kind of
that sounds really cool. What would you say is like the coolest or maybe like most complex thing you've made so far?
The most complex was my son and I were taking a forging class, and we were making axe heads. And the axe heads were so complicated. There were so many steps that were not just the traditional hammer it into a knife shape. I needed to be walked through every step of the way. And I would say I could still not repeat it myself without a coach there. So those axe heads, I have great respect to the people that used to forge those, and the talent that went into that. That would be the most complex from that side. I think from my own side, my son and I worked on our biggest project together was a sea turtle that we started out with, and it took us a long time just because we were learning how to kind of work the process together. So that was more just because it was complicated because we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
But the project came out well. We keep it in our yard.
That's super cool. I'd love to see like some pictures of like some of the stuff you've made. I mean, that sounds like a really interesting and cool hobby that you have.
I'll tell you what, if you send me a picture of what's happening in Moffett, I will send you a picture of the turtle that I've got in my yard.
Okay. Yeah. I'll run up there if it's still going. I'm not sure if it is, but
Okay.
I'll head over there. I'm going to the library after this, but yes, the last question I have for you, and I always ask my guests this at the end of the show, what is one piece of advice or a piece of encouragement that you could give to my listeners?
Well, your listeners are students, alumni, faculty. So
that is kind of vague. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, they are mostly college age students.
Mostly college age students. Okay, well, what I would say is that Highlander pride is alive and well, and we are going to do everything possible working together to elevate that level of pride so you are fiercely loyal to Radford University. We talked through some of those opportunities, but I am going to dive in with students when we get there, and we are going to continue to make Radford University a stronger university. That fierce pride, you deserve it. Radford University is a fantastic university, and we're going to elevate that.
That sounds great. You got me really excited. It's unfortunate that I'm graduating, but
but you're going to come back. You're going to come back as an alum. We're going to have you back regularly. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Please do. Because I would love to, just see all the progress that you guys make, and maybe even, be a part of some of it. That would be an absolute dream to just help Radford grow in any way, shape, or form.
That sounds fantastic, Michael. I look forward to working with you post-graduation. We'll make it happen.
Awesome. Well, guys, everyone listening or watching on YouTube, please scroll down below. Follow Radford University on social media. I got all the links below in the description. Thank you very much, Dr. Bret. Dr. Bret Danilowicz, President Bret. I saw a bunch of names you like to go by in your introductory thing at Radford. So
President Bret works just fine, Michael.
President Bret, well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy, and I just ultimately can't wait to see you take over on July 1st and just grow from there.